This morning, the woman who said Sean Jay-Z Carter and Sean Diddy Combs sexually assaulted her after the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards is heard talking to private investigators about her claim and agreeing that Jay-Z did not assault her. The woman is also heard saying her lawyer put her up to suing one of the world's most recognizable stars.
When it's an accusation, everyone runs to amplify it. When it's the truth, everybody quiet.
Well, what do you always say, right? Nobody cares about the truth and the lies more entertaining. And the sad thing about it is, you could tell it's been a lie from the beginning.
From the beginning.
She didn't have her story straight. Her dad doesn't remember driving 4 or 5 hours. Like, it sounds crazy. So the fact that we're still having these conversations, but...
So this story has taken a very interesting twist because now the accuser is saying her lawyer put her up to it. Let's talk about it. Okay, this is Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z. Now, he's married to superstar Beyonce. They have 3 kids together, and he's good friends with Sean P. Diddy Combs, who is under a lot, and I mean a lot, of crazy allegations. Now, to try to keep this video as simple as possible, Sean P. Diddy Combs used to throw these parties, and these parties were essentially sex parties for celebrities. Now, there have been many allegations of assaults and other things happening within these quote-unquote white parties that Sean P. Diddy Combs threw. Now, if you haven't been watching the news, Sean P. Diddy Combs was arrested and indicted for a whole bunch of sex crimes with the federal government. But there's been also a lot of civil suits that have occurred since the indictment. Now, this is similar to the Jeffrey Epstein list, right? You have Jeffrey Epstein, he had a whole bunch of people visit the island, and now we're all waiting for that list of people who visited the island with Jeffrey Epstein. And the same thing with the P. Diddy Combs thing. Everybody's kind of waiting for the list of people who were involved in the debauchery. Now, Jay-Z, who attended these parties, also claims that he didn't do anything like assault anyone or stuff. He was just one of the attendees. Then a woman came forward. She was claiming that when she was 13, she attended one of these white parties, specifically after the 2000 VMAs, and that Jay-Z and P. Diddy had assaulted her. Now, reading through the complaint and seeing what the allegations were, none of this stuff made sense to me from the beginning. Now, here are the allegations as alleged. So, on September 7th, 2000, a 13-year-old autistic girl was driven from Rochester, New York to New York City. Now, this drive took 5 hours. She was making this trip to attend the 2000 Video Music Awards.
The night of the 2000s VMAs, she says a friend drove her from Rochester, New York to Manhattan, a more than 5-hour drive.
Now, after this 13-year-old is dropped off, she claims she couldn't get into the show, so she watched it on the Jumbotron. She then claims that after the show, she meets one of Diddy's drivers who takes her to an after party. She claims the party was held at a private home with a U-shaped driveway. She also claims that Benji Madden was at the party and she had a conversation with him about his tattoo, The Last Supper.
She went to a White House, she says, where she spoke to musicians Benji Madden and his brother.
I'm talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo because, I have about his tattoo that's The Last Supper, because I have a religious background, so it was just something to talk about.
Now, this woman also claims that later on some unspeakable things occurred in that house and that she escaped and ran to a local gas station where she called her father, who was in Rochester, and then he drove the 5 hours from Rochester to New York City to pick up his daughter.
After the alleged rape, she says she ran to a gas station where she called her father, who picked her up and drove her home.
We rode home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was.
Now, this was a story that they were putting forward, but at first glance, you may not notice the issues, but just dig a little deeper and it becomes glaring that this story has a lot of problems. Okay, so we have a lot to work with here. So let's tackle this one thing at a time. So who can verify that they drove a 13-year-old 5.5 hours from their home in Rochester to New York and dropped them off in the middle of the city? Can we find that? Can we speak to that person who did that? Because, to be honest with you, that may be a form of child neglect. But NBC has a response for us.
The night of the 2000s VMAs, she says a friend drove her from Rochester, New York to Manhattan, a more than 5-hour drive. Her attorney provided NBC News with the name of the friend who has since died.
So the friend died. Well, you know who else we can ask? Her father. Her father drove her 5 hours back and forth, right? That's a 10-hour trip. That's something you remember. I had to pick up my 13-year-old daughter 5.5 hours away in New York City. How the hell did you get out there, right? That's something that you'd remember. So here's what her father said.
She says she ran to a gas station where she called her father, who picked her up and drove her home.
We rode home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was.
In an interview with NBC News, her father said he could not verify the claims. Quote, I felt like I would remember that, and I don't. I have a lot going on, but I mean, that's something that would definitely stick in my mind, he said.
That's something I would think you would remember too. Right? A 10-hour trip to go pick up your daughter. And remember, she even said she spoke to some people during that party of Benji Madden.
I'm talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo.
But come to find out, he wasn't even in the state.
In a statement to NBC News, a representative of the Maddens confirmed that they did not attend the 2000 VMAs and that they were on tour in the Midwest at the time.
Now, even the location of the alleged assault seems to be up for question. See, the alleged victim in this case says she was taken to a White House for the after party.
I stumbled upon Diddy's driver, who told me that I was exactly what Diddy was looking for.
What did you think when he said that to you?
I thought it meant that I was just pretty.
She went to a White House, she says.
Now, this is a problem for this woman's story because during that night, Jay-Z and Diddy were both filmed at various locations, and neither of them were a White House.
Paragraph 44 of the complaint claims that the party, again, this is the party where she claims she was assaulted, the party occurred at a large white residence with a gated U-shaped driveway that was approximately 20 minutes from the VMAs by car. But photographs show that after the VMAs, Mr. Carter attended a party at Lotus, a nightclub in New York. And by the way, there is a photo included here provided by Alex Spiro of Jay-Z at what appears to be a party with a lot of people. Later on in the memorandum, he writes, other photographs from that evening also show Mr. Combs with his then girlfriend, the musician and actress Jennifer Lopez, at two different establishments, Lotus and Twirl, neither of which was a large residence with a U-shaped driveway. And there is another photo that is included. This time it's of the pair, Jennifer Lopez, Sean Combs, and there is a caption at the bottom that says that they are at a MTV Video Music Awards after party at Twirl on September 7th, 2000.
Now, you would think that was enough to say, hold on, these allegations may not be up to snuff. But even the minor things seem to be off. For instance, she said she watched the VMAs on a Jumbotron because you couldn't get inside. But they didn't have a Jumbotron because the city didn't give them a permit.
Then, Spiro writes, paragraph 40 states that plaintiff watched the VMAs on a Jumbotron. In fact, photographs from that evening show there was no Jumbotron, as New York City had denied MTV a permit. And included, also by Jay-Z's legal team, is a screenshot of what appears to be a video, so it's a still shot from a YouTube video that is titled 2000 MTV VMAs Red Carpet, and it appears that someone is performing on an outdoor stage in New York, but from that pic, yeah, you don't see a Jumbotron.
And getting things started, doing it live up on the marquee for the crowds down below. Best New Artist nominees, Papa Roach.
So now I came out and straight up said, this whole story is a lie. This 13-year-old's lying. This is all BS. Jay-Z didn't do any of this. If this is the story they're putting forward, it makes no sense. Her father drove 10 hours, 5 hours to pick her up, 5 hours back. She's waiting at a gas station for 5 hours for her father to pick her up. She's 13. What friend drives you from 5 hours away and just drops you off in the middle of the New York City street? None of this made sense. So I immediately knew this story was BS. But they were still pushing it because Jay-Z has deep pockets and he wanted him to pay money. But the great thing for Jay-Z, he said no.
He released a statement on social media responding to the lawsuit and Texas attorney behind this legal action, saying in part, these allegations are so heinous in nature, you have made a terrible error in judgment thinking that all celebrities are the same. I look forward to showing you just how different I am.
Now, let's just keep it real. This one was obviously lying. Jay-Z had nothing to do with this. He probably wasn't even there. All her story was just nonsense. But Jay-Z wasn't going to let it go because you know you still have those people like, well, there's got to be some truth to it because she said it. So Jay-Z then sued the accuser and the attorney because obviously the story was garbage.
Jay-Z had began to sue Tony Busby, who was the attorney that accused him of sexually assaulting the woman who claimed she was 13 back in 2000 after a VMA party with Diddy, right? Now, moving forward, yesterday in Alabama, in a court in Alabama, Jay-Z went forward and filed something directly against the Jane Doe and her lawyer. This time, it's not just attorney Busby, that it's also a man named David Fortney, who was a second attorney. So Jay-Z is saying that the woman admitted to his reps that she made the whole story up. The lawsuit says that she made it up because she was pushed toward going forward with the false story against Jay-Z by her attorneys. Now, Busby is saying that this has no legal merit and that the woman is still standing by her story. He's actually saying that this whole lawsuit that Jay-Z just filed in Alabama is basically another, in his terms, another failed attempt and like a desperate attempt to respond to everything that is happening. He says this new case alleges the same claims as the other one they pieced together and filed in Los Angeles. Like the other one in LA, this new case in Alabama has no legal merit. Sean Carter's investigators have repeatedly harassed, threatened, and something else, this poor woman for weeks, trying to intimidate her and make her recant her story. She hasn't and she won't. And says she has stated that she stands by her claims. These same group of investigators have been caught on tape offering to pay people sue me and my firm after speaking with Jane Doe today. It's clear to me that the quotes attributed to her in this lawsuit are completely made up, or they spoke to someone who isn't Jane Doe.
So I don't know if you ever watched this show called How I Met Your Mother with Barney, and he always says challenge accepted.
There's no way a guy can pick up a girl going around talking like a little boy.
Challenge accepted.
No.
Well, that's what Jay-Z lawyers did. They said, okay, you don't believe she said it was someone else? Well, here are the tapes of her saying that exact same thing.
They asked for her to be interviewed. The interview occurred, and the tape speaks for itself. She says, in no uncertain terms, Mr. Carter did not do this. It is effectively a lie. And the only reason Mr. Carter is even involved in this is because she was pushed to involve him, pushed to include him by a lawyer.
But Jay-Z, you're saying he was definitely there? But he had no part in it, or he was just...
He was there. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any sexual acts towards you. It was strictly, yeah.
The woman is also heard saying her lawyer put her up to suing one of the world's most recognizable stars.
He was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him.
With Jay-Z? Busby did?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
No.
That seemed pretty clear to me. She says Jay-Z was there, but he didn't do anything to her. So why would you sue Jay-Z? Well, because my lawyer told me to do it. Very damning, very damning. But then her attorney, Busby, who seems to be the villain in this whole thing, he comes back and he records his own client over the phone, their conversation, and this is what he presented.
The accuser's lawyer, Tony Busby, called it a blatant lie that he pushed Jane Doe to sue Jay-Z, and he sent us this recording of a phone call with his client.
They say that they have you on tape denying that Jay-Z assaulted you. Is that true?
No. I don't. I've never said that.
Okay. They also say that you told them, and they have it on tape, that I, Tony Busby, told you to came up with this plan and told you to say that Jay-Z assaulted you so you would get more money.
No.
Jane Doe said in a court filing, although I ultimately chose not to pursue them, I stand by my claims.
Well, I'm going to say it. She should be sued into oblivion because her claims, to me, my opinion is that they are absolutely false. When you listen to the claims and you look at the logic, they make no sense. They've never made any sense. And it's funny because when I was telling some of my more liberal friends, like, hey, these Jay-Z things, none of this makes any sense. The 5-hour trip, they were making excuses after excuses after excuses. Well, the friend died, so it's possible that she could have been driven 5 hours and dropped off in the middle of New York City. It's possible that the father couldn't remember him driving 10 hours, 5 hours to go pick her up and 5 hours to take her back. All of this is possible. Oh yeah, even though the house is wrong, the venue is wrong, there was no Jumbotron, which she said she watched. Ignore all that. There may be some truth to it. And there was truth to none of it. So I think Jay-Z should sue both the lawyers and her into oblivion because I think the lawyers, they saw a dollar sign and a cursory look at this story, right? Hey, who was this friend that drove you 5 hours? That friend happens to be dead. Let's speak to your father because he picked you up, right? He had to drive 5 hours to pick you up and take you back home, but he says he doesn't remember. There's no way you should bring that lawsuit, but you see dollar signs and now you're in trouble. So tell me if you think I'm being too hard on the victim and her lawyer here, because I think possibly maybe even jail time here, because if she's still standing by any of these lies that are obvious lies, I think she should be punished harshly, and hopefully Jay-Z bankrupts both the attorneys and her, because this is horrible. Now, as always, tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. Tell me if you agree with this accuser, if you believe that she's telling the truth. I just happen to disagree with you. Now, don't forget, like, share, subscribe again, do all that great YouTube stuff. If you're hearing my voice right now, haven't subscribed, please just hit the button. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I'm out. Peace.